Well, hello scrappers, Mike here, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to tackle processing the rest of the palladium plated e-waste scrap that Joven in Taiwan sent me. So in the previous videos I figured out that A, there was palladium in there, B, there was a fair amount of it, C, I figured out a method for getting the palladium off of these strips and separating it from the strips in the base metal, and I reduced it back to palladium metal, and I got a pretty good yield. This stuff was about 1% palladium using that method, but I think I can do better. I think I can do better because I know there were some losses. I know I didn't get all the palladium out of these strips. So today we're going to try something different. Joven himself suggested dissolving all of the metal off the strips. The copper underplating, the nickel over the copper, and the palladium on top. Just dissolve it all and then precipitate the palladium out of solution. That's a little more tricky than the method I used, but I think we should get a better yield out of it. So I think that's what we're going to do. We will dissolve all the metal and then see if we can get the palladium back out of solution, and hopefully free of a lot of copper and nickel contamination too. First off, I think we need to figure out just how much of this stuff we've got left here after my initial experiments. Joven called into question the accuracy of my scale, and I have to admit, that scale gives me nothing but trouble. And it's much more accurate for large weights than for small weights. So I got a different scale here. We will, I don't know if that's showing up. We will weigh this stuff and see how much we've got left. And I have put a calibration weight on this scale, and it is reasonably accurate. So we got 1 kilo, 38 grams. So 1,039 grams. And put this on there, and we are up to 1,700 grams, 1,701. So 1.7 kilos of material left. Yes, I know I'm weighing the bags. It doesn't amount to diddly squat. Okay? These things are really hard to deal with out of the bags. Okay, so we got a little over 1,700 grams of this material left. How am I going to dissolve all of the metal on the strips? The strips are some sort of, I don't know, composite substrate. It's not plastic. Doesn't appear to be fiberglass. I don't know what it is. It doesn't burn. It just chars. It makes a lot of greasy black smoke without really turning to ash. So I don't know what it is, but let's see if we can figure out how to dissolve all the metal off of those strips. So how am I going to do it? Well, I'm thinking I'm going to go cheap on this. Up till now I've been using a lot of my homemade nitric acid, but I think I'm just going to use poor man's aqua regia here. I'm going to dump all this stuff in a bucket, and I'm going to put some uriatic acid on it. I'm going to put some sodium nitrate on it. We're going to make poor man's aqua regia, and I'm going to leave the bucket out in the sun and let Mother Nature heat it up and speed the process along. And it may take a little while to get all the metal into solution. You know, I'll stir it from time to time. I've got a piece of PVC pipe there I'll use to stir it with. It may take a little while, but this video will be compressed into a reasonably short one for your viewing pleasure. You won't have to see the whole process if it takes days and days. So let me reposition the camera, and we will get started making ourselves some poor man's aqua regia. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to unceremoniously dump all of the strips into the bucket. What am I seeing here? Now, in the last video, I found that some of these strips had a little bit of gold plating on them. I think here's another one that has a little bit of gold plating. Joven said that these strips had originally been gold plated, but the gold plating had been removed. How they managed to get the gold off without taking the palladium too, I don't know. But I have found a few strips in here that have some gold plating on it. Not very much. It's thin and it's spotty, But there are some strips in here with some gold plating on it. In fact, here's looks like a couple more I can see through the bag right here. Find it here. Yeah, a little bit of gold. Not much, a little bit. Come on, everybody out of the bag. All right. So there we are. This stuff's going to be hard to stir, but I'm going to endeavor to keep it stirred up enough that the aqua regia, hopefully, will get to all the little bits and pieces here. And dissolve all of the metals, the palladium as well as the base metal plating underneath. I think I'm going to start by putting a little bit of water on this, just so I don't have to use gallons of muriatic acid over there. So let me put a little water on it. Okay, that's a good start to level up. Now this is some old muriatic acid. I was out of town for over a month, and this stuff sat around in the heat, and it's gone yellow on me, but it should still make some good aqua regia. I've got a nice big fan blowing at my back, so I'm not breathing fumes, fortunately. Okay, a little bit more maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is going to definitely need to be stirred from time to time. Now, when I put the sodium nitrate in, you should get a pretty much immediate reaction. I will give you a look inside the bucket as I do this. Let me reposition the camera so you can see what happens. Okay, repositioning the bucket was easier, so here we go with some sodium nitrate in here. And that ought to be about enough. Give it a good stir. The liquid is going blue already. I'm not seeing a whole lot of fierce bubbling or anything, but the liquid is going blue. You saw that old acid went in there yellow. Well, this liquid is turning blue. We're already starting to dissolve copper and nickel out of these strips, just that quick. As soon as that sodium nitrate hit the liquid. We've got poor man's aqua regia here. All right, so let me put this out in the sun so it can warm up nicely on this hot Florida summer day. And I will stir it from time to time and give you the occasional look inside at what's going on. Oh, I see some bubbling. Yeah, we're starting to get some bubbling. So let me get it out in the sun, and we'll get this party started, because it's going to be close to 100 degrees today. So that should speed up the process. Something wonderful. Hey, will you look at that reaction? Just in the time it's taken me to walk this out into the sun and set it out here. Look what's going on in there. Holy moly. Yeah, we got a reaction going. The liquid's turning dark green. Won't be much longer. I won't be able to see the strips down there, I don't think. And I think as this heats up in the sun, it's just going to get more of a potent reaction going on. So I'm going to cover it up lightly, because there's a lot of gas being involved in there. I don't want to hold it in. Let it come out. I want to build up pressure, but I don't want rain to get in there. It's supposed to rain every day for the next few days, so I don't want rain to dilute that liquid in there. So we'll just cover it up lightly so gases can escape, but we'll keep the rain out. And I will endeavor to stir it a few times a day whenever I'm out this way to make sure everything gets contact with the acid in there. And I'm hoping pretty quickly we'll get all that metal dissolved into solution and we can work on getting the palladium back. And I think at the rate things are going here, Whoa, look at that. The orange fumes coming out of that bucket. Wow. Yeah, I think at the rate that this is going, it may not take as long as I thought it would, even without additional heat. I think just the heat of the sun is going to pretty thoroughly do the job here. Okay, so let me go on to other stuff while this stuff just sits here and cooks in the sun. Well, it's been, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. I have moved this thing further away from my laboratory because of the volume of orange gas coming out of it. I keep getting whiffs of it, and that's not good. So I've moved this thing further around the back of the building away from my lab. But I'll tell you what, I peek inside it. I'm standing upwind here. The orange gas coming out. And I'll tell you what, the reaction's not that vigorous. Good. I was worried that with the volume of gas coming out, that maybe it was going to bubble over, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. But the reaction certainly is getting more vigorous as this bucket warms up in the sun. So, whew, all right. This may not take that long after all. I was thinking this was going to take days. The way things are going in there, it may be done today. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to back off because the volume of orange gas coming out of there is just incredible. I was not expecting the reaction to be this vigorous. So let me go back around and into my lab and work on some other stuff while I leave this stuff out here in the back 40 to do its thing, safely away from me. All right, this is the first time I've come out and stirred this since I've started it. The reaction has slowed down a lot. It's only been, well, under an hour since I started it. But look, I hope you can see all the little bits of palladium floating free in there. Now my goal is to dissolve the palladium as well as the base metal. Clearly the base metal is going into solution. And yes, I'm standing upwind. There's still some fumes coming off this stuff. But the reaction has died down a lot. But I think I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to put anything else in it for now. And make sure I get these strips down into the liquid. I'm just going to let it go. I see some more bubbling happening now that I've stirred it up because there were a lot of strips all stuck together. And I don't think the liquid is getting to them. So hopefully the reaction will revive a little bit. I'm just going to let this go. Probably for the rest of the day, and then make a decision about whether I want to put any more acid or sodium nitrate on it. We'll see how it does. Well, it's been 4 or 5 hours. Went out to lunch with some friends, and then it started raining. And it didn't just rain, it was a deluge. So, yeah, I'm glad I covered this up. Otherwise, would have got a lot of water in it. Looks like the reaction has pretty much stopped. I still see a lot of strips in here that still look like they have most of their metal on them. I'm going to add some more sodium nitrate to it. Let's see if this revitalizes the reaction. It's also cooled off a lot out here, so. No more nice hot sun on the bucket. Let's see. Oh yeah. So we'll see if the reaction picks up again here in a bit. And there's a lot of palladium floating around in there, but I'm trying to get it dissolved too. So far no real increase in reaction. I'll just let it sit and see if we get some more metal dissolved in solution over time. Like I said, it has cooled off. That might have something to do with it. The sun's trying to come back out after the rain. Maybe it'll warm up again and get it going again. All right, it's about the middle of the next day. Now, earlier this morning, I came out and I gave this stuff a stir. And I added a little bit more hydrochloric acid and a little bit more sodium nitrate to it. And we've got a pretty good bubbling reaction going. It's gotten quite warm out here. this orange bucket's warming up in the sun, and we got a nice reaction going. See all that palladium floating on the surface? So far it's not dissolving, but I don't think it's going to until all of the copper and nickel go into solution, because they're much more reactive metals. So just gonna let it go, because in the heat of the day we got a pretty good reaction going. I'll stir it again a couple of times today, but I don't think I'm going to add any more to it because it looks like it is working at the moment. Alright, it's afternoon of the second day, and there's still a fair amount of floating palladium in there, but I'm seeing a whole lot less of any kind of metal stuck to the strips. And I think a lot of the palladium has gone into solution, because if you look at the end of my stick here, the liquid is brown now. It's no longer blue, which it was to begin with as it was dissolving copper. It's gone brown, which tells me we've got palladium chloride in solution. So clearly not all the palladium is dissolved yet, but this is still working. It was quite hot today. There was a lot of bubbling going on. When I took the lid off, a big cloud of orange gas came out. I'm not going to put anything else in here. I'm just going to let it sit. And we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. It may be tomorrow afternoon before I can get out here and mess with it. But we'll see if all this floating palladium starts going into solution. You see the little bubbles rising? We still got a reaction going on in there. So hopefully we can get all this palladium in solution, and then figure out a way to get it out of solution again and turn it back into palladium metal. Well, would you look at this? It's the evening of the next day. I worked long today, so I didn't get a chance to do anything with this. Just came out here and opened it up. It's almost sunset, and a huge cloud of orange fumes came out, and I am not seeing a whole lot of palladium. I've seen just a couple of little flakes here and there as I've stirred this stuff around. But it certainly looks like the vast bulk of it has gone into solution. Nice. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay. So I'm going to let this stuff sit because, like I said, it's almost sunset. And, well, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow and for the next few days. So this may sit for a few days before I can do anything with it. But really, I don't think just sitting here is going to hurt it a bit. Yeah, I still see a few little bits floating there. Yeah, I think just sitting here, the rest of that stuff will probably dissolve. Okay, so I will see you again when I have some time to process this stuff. Let's see if we can get that palladium metal back. Alright, so this stuff's been sitting around for a better part of a week because I've just been too busy to do anything with it. But today's the day. First thing I want to do is I want to filter it. So I've got a colander here with some paper towel in it to make a rudimentary filter. I just want to catch the worst of the gunk. That is some seriously deep green material. Yeah, I don't know if that green color is coming through, but wow. Yeah, that's some seriously green stuff. This paper is going to go into my filter and rag storage, and it will get processed at some point. You rinse this stuff off. Making sure I get as much of this palladium-laden goodness out of it as I can. But I don't want to dilute the liquid too much more than it already is, because I got a feeling I'm going to have to concentrate it by boiling it down. So use as little water as I think I can get away with here to get the bulk of the remaining palladium out of here. So I'm going to rinse this a few more times. And when it's not coming through so green anymore, I'll assume I've got the bulk of the palladium out, as well as, the copper, the nickel, anything else in here. Then we'll move on to the next step. All right, I've rinsed that stuff a few times. The liquid's coming out less colorful than it was. I'm just going to let it drain and drain as much of that liquid out of the bucket and out of the strips that are left in there as I can. I'm just going to let it drain for, 15, 20 minutes. I mean, I can see down at the bottom here that it's still dripping. So we'll just let it go until it looks like it's all dried up and it's all in this bottom bucket. All right, so what's the next step for this stuff? I've got it sort of crudely filtered, got the big bits of stuff out of it. But as you can see, I've probably got close to 2 gallons of liquid here. This is a 5-gallon bucket, so that's a lot of liquid. How do I want to process it to get the palladium out of it? Well, I think there's a few options here. Some of you are probably just saying, throw some DMG in it, precipitate the palladium, move on with life. That's a possibility. I do have some DMG. I don't have a lot, though. This stuff's kind of expensive and it's kind of hard to get. So I've got 25 grams of DMG here. I don't know if that's enough to precipitate out all of the palladium in there. But there's another problem. I think there's nickel in there too. I'm really pretty certain there's nickel in there. I think there was nickel underplating under the palladium between it and the copper. So we've got nickel in there, and DMG will bring down nickel even more efficiently than it will bring down palladium. So we'll wind up with a mix of palladium and nickel. So that's not good. We need to try and clean up our palladium a little better than that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the DMG aside. We may use it later in the process, but for now I'm just going to set it aside. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to parcel this liquid out amongst my biggest beakers and start concentrating it down, boiling it down until basically we dry it out. Because I need to get rid of the nitrate. I want to convert all of the metal salts in here into chlorides. So if we boil this down, we'll boil off the nitrates. I'll rehydrate it with hydrochloric acid. And we should wind up with all metal chlorides in here. And then we can take advantage, I think, and I'm making this up as I go along, but, I've been looking around, like in the Handbook of Chemistry and Physics and doing some online research. I think we could take advantage of the different solubilities of the metal chlorides in here to concentrate our palladium dramatically before we do something like going to DMG. So I think that's what I'm going to try. I'll parcel this out, boil it down. We'll see how that goes. Certainly I'll wind up with a lot less liquid to deal with. Like 2 gallons is just too much for me to deal with. So, plus Hoke's book says that for platinum group metals, they prefer to come out of concentrated solutions, unlike gold, which prefers to come out of a dilute solution. So we need to concentrate this too, make it a whole lot more concentrated than it is now. So let me get set up for that, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so here's my cutting plan. I've got 2 of my biggest beakers out here, 3 liters each. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill them up with liquid from this bucket. Ugh. This deep green liquid from this bucket. About that much in there. I could put more in, but I don't want to spill it while I'm moving it around. Alright. That actually used up most of the liquid in the bucket, so I'm pretty happy about that. So my plan is, I've got a 2-burner hot plate in my fume hood. So my plan is I'm going to put these in the fume hood, one on each hot plate, and start evaporating off the liquid. I'm not going to boil it really hard because I don't want it to spatter, but I do want to evaporate down the liquid. As these evaporate down, I will put more of this liquid in them and keep that process going. Eventually, I would like to evaporate this stuff down enough to get it all into one beaker and then keep that process going. Eventually, stuff should start crystallizing out, and the nitrates in here should boil off. And we should be left with a bunch of salts in here, mostly chloride salts. I will rehydrate it with hydrochloric acid and then boil it down again just to make sure that we get rid of the nitrates. And then we should have nothing but chloride salts here. And the beauty of that is the copper and nickel chlorides are very soluble in water. So I could rehydrate this with water then and get rid of them. The palladium chloride salt, not so soluble in water, especially hot water. Not so soluble at all. So I should be able to get rid of the copper and the nickel that way and leave behind the palladium. That's my theory anyway. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this idea. Anyway, I'm going to get these in the fume hood and get this party started. All right, so here we go. Hopefully, I don't blow a circuit breaker having both burners on here at the same time. I've just rearranged the power connections here so that this is on an outlet all by itself, nothing else. So hopefully, it's just going to work. We'll let this stuff heat up. I will start the fume hood up so we get an air draft through there. And hopefully, we can just evaporate this stuff down. I'm pretty sure this is going to take a few days, though. So this will be condensed for you. But yeah, this is going to take a while. So this might be a good place to break up this video into 2 parts because, like I said, it's going to be days before this is done. So I'll take some video during the process, and we'll graph that on the beginning of part 2, and then we can start dealing with the stuff in the beakers here. So I hope you found this video at least a little bit interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever. So give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see my future videos, including part 2 of me getting the palladium back out of this stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of it, and I think it's going to be interesting. So subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Bye.